let's jump in and take a look at working within Metasploit. And specifically, we're going to take a look at workspaces. Now, I have two series of friends. I have friends that absolutely love Metasploit and they do everything and anything inside Metasploit, from recon to initial access to payloads to exploits and you name it, right? They just live inside Metasploit. And then I have friends that use Metasploit to deliver their payloads and to deliver exploits, and they do everything else outside of Metasploit. And that's okay. There's different frameworks that are available to us. So should you be familiar with using Metasploit framework? Should you want to be using Silent Trinity? Should you be using Covenant? What's right? Well, it comes down to personal preferences and what you're comfortable using and what framework you enjoy working with at the end of the day. So just so kind of know that when we work with our workspaces, there's a PostgreSQL database that we need to set up. So before we do that, we'll jump in and launch the Metasploit framework console. We'll connect the PostgreSQL database, and we'll make sure that that's sort of initialized before we begin any scanning. So the way that I like to do that is there's the etc init database, and then we're going to look at that Postgres. So the init daemon, we're going to look at the PostgreSQL status. So hopefully my one is obviously it's active and running. If your one is not active and running, just do a quick start. So I'm going to stop mine and then do a quick status. And then obviously now it's disabled, and let's do a quick start. So we need to start this database. Let's do a quick status. Okay, and now it's active. So the database is running itself, and this database is obviously the first thing that we need to set up, right? So it connects the database to Metasploit framework, and the database itself, it doesn't give us any additional functionality or features or anything like that. It's just a location and basically space to store information in, right? It doesn't provide us any additional functions or features or services or anything like that. Just some people really enjoy using this database because they can store Nmap results, Nmap scans, and other information inside there. So let's go launch our Metasploit framework, and we'll make sure that the database itself has connected to our Metasploit framework. And then we'll take a look at doing some stuff with our workspaces. We'll do some port scans and see how the data gets stored inside this database. So I'm just going to give this a few seconds to power up. Looks like it's powering on pretty quickly. So if it just takes a little bit longer, I may just pause the screen and we will resume in just a moment. Okay, we're here now at the Metasploit framework, so we've just launched it, and I'm just going to do a quick database status to make sure the database has connected, and it's saying, hey, database is connected to your PostgreSQL database, which is great, and that's the way that we get this up and running, and now we can utilize workspaces. So let's create a few workspaces so we can kind of see how they look and how we sort of function our way around these. So I'm just going to clear the space here. I'll clear the space here as well just to give us some breathing room, and let me just do a quick workspace. So it tells us that there's already a few that we've created in here already. Looks like I was playing with this before. And it tells us, hey, you are in this default workspace. And we know that by there's a little asterisk here. And that just tells us that it puts us in the default workspace. So let's create a couple more workspaces. So I'm going to do a quick workspace. Workspace, tag A just says, hey, I want to add a new workspace. And let's call this XYZ Corp. And we'll create that workspace, and then let's create another one. Let's call this ABC Corp, and let's create another one, and we'll call this one Evil Corp. Okay, and let's do a quick workspace so we can list out our workspaces. There we go, and now we've got a bunch of workspaces. So it looks like it puts us into the default, or it puts us into this Evil Corp one, as we can see by the asterisk. It tells us, hey, you are now in this Evil Corp workspace. So it usually does this by the last group that you create. It puts you into that group as the last one. So just keep that in mind. So should we need any more help within our workspaces, we can just do a quick workspace and use the tag H for help, and it will tell us, hey, you can go into your different workspace just by typing in workspace name. So we'll do that in just a moment. And additional functions in here, should we need to list out workspaces verbosely, so they're going to come up on the screen if we're creating a workspace. We can delete additional information if we want to rename it, and so on and so forth. So if we are working in this Evil Corp, again, if we've got different customers or different subnets or ranges or different, hosts that we're working with, we can really just segment out our workflow, right? How we deliver our pen testing goals or our security testing goals, depending on how we want to manage our, again, our workspaces, right? So it kind of helps us in that narrative where we just keep things systemized, we keep things organized. And then within that, we can actually go in and take a look at different services, different hosts, and we'll do that in just a moment as well. So say that we're in the, I think we're in the Evil Corp workspace. Let's just say we've done all the work inside this workspace and we want to now jump into customer 6. Well, we can do that. So we can just do a quick workspace and then just the name of the customer, or the name of the workspace that we want to go into. So in this case, I want to go into customer 6, and we just do that. And we can do the quick workspace, and that will list us and show us that we are in this customer 6 workspace. So that's a quick and down and dirty into the Metasploit framework workspaces. Let's do a quick scan as well. And let me do a quick hosts. And it tells me, hey, you've got no host that we can identify. And if I do services, again, there should be nothing because we haven't scanned anything. So let's put some data in here and then we'll compare, right? So let's just do a quick database underscore nmap, and then I'll do a quick T4 port scan against the host. So this is the Windows machine that we have up and running. So this is just a T4 quick sort of scan. It's not going to really give us much information. And now if I do the services, it'll say, hey, I can see a bunch of services that are open. We've got port, 22 for SSH. We've got 135, 139 for NetBIOS. We've got SMB running and a bunch of other different stuff. And there's 3389. So it can give us that information. Again, if I go hosts as well, it'll tell us that, hey, we've got this host. Here's the MAC address. Here's the name that I can see. The operating system at this stage is unknown because obviously we didn't set that syntax to give us the OS version. So let's do that. Let's go a little bit more aggressive with our scan. And I'll use the tag A, and then let's do all ports, and then I'll do the same host as well, 192.168.146. And I'll just give this a moment to sort of come up. I'll pause the screen. We'll resume our different sort of comparison between the two different scans, and we'll look at sort of the additional information that we're going to get between, the more information in this column specifically, because it's going to look at the versions, it's going to look at specific operating system information. It's going to basically pull out more information around what these services are. So I'm just going to pause the scan here, and then we'll just resume in just a moment once it comes back up and running. There we are. So it looks like it's completed our scan, and I got a little bit impatient before, so I kept hitting the space button. So I'm like, come on, let's go, let's go. Okay, so the port scan has been completed. So as you can see on here's where I was getting a little bit impatient, just waiting for it to complete. And now it's telling us that it's been completed. So it's gone through, it's sort of verbosely put out all the output here. So if I just do a quick service, oops, services, it tells us a bit more information, right? So a bit more of information around these different ports that are running. So port 22 before had no information here, didn't tell us what version of what protocol specifically was running or anything like that. Tag A kind of went a bit more detailed. So now that we've got more information in there that's populated, we can start working with these, this specific host, right? So we can start potentially exploiting known exploits to these vulnerabilities, and we can start investigating further into what else is a potential vulnerability, right? So again, I can look at the hosts and it will tell me, hey, now I know that this machine is a Windows 7 and it's a client, and it'll give you more information based on that. So that's how we can use the database and workspaces just as a general update across Metasploit framework to help us keep things organized, right? Again, if we've got different customers or different ranges of subnets that we're working with, maybe we've got a production servers that we need to work through, or different bunch of servers that we have to test, we can create workspaces against those, put them all in one spot, and then put hosts and workspaces in, or workstations, I should say, in different types of workspaces. So there's a bunch of things that we can do. There's core commands, there's different modules, a boatload of stuff. And as we continue through this course, we're going to be covering as much as we can through the Metasploit framework. So just another sort of side note as well is keeping Metasploit framework up to date. And to do that previously, we would need to go in here, update the databases, and do some other manual configurations to make sure that the Metasploit framework itself is up to date. Right now, we don't need to do anything like that. We can just do our apt-get update essentially through our package manager, and then that'll go away and do our update across our Metasploit framework. So it's nice and easy to keep things really up to date, keep things organized and systemized in our systems, and as we continue doing our pen testing, achievement, and our goals. So that's a brief introduction into launching and connecting our PostgreSQL database to Metasploit, how we set up the database and how we configure the database to use Nmap, how we store information in the database, and obviously use and work with the different type of workspaces as well within Metasploit framework. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the upcoming videos. We're going to go into a lot more detail, and one of the coolest ones that we're going to look at is our Meterpreter sessions as well. So just want to say thank you for viewing. If you have any more comments around the Metasploit framework, I'd love to hear about them, and see you all in an upcoming video. Bye for now.